In wildlife practice, every medical decision carries both scientific and legal responsibility. A wildlife veterinarian is not just a healer, but also a guardian of law and ethics. Join us as we uncover how sound ethics and law guide every step of responsible wildlife veterinary practice.
Today we are going to discuss about vetrolegal investigations. In wildlife, again, the challenge for the wildlife veterinarians is definitely to deal with a lot of vetrolegal cases with respect to poaching or illegal trade or confiscation. All such things involves legal proceedings related to wildlife crimes such as poaching, illegal trade, and sometimes injuries caused by human actions. The wildlife veterinarian play a critical role in this because they are going to provide investigation reports with respect to their medical evidences, perform forensic investigations, and may serve as experienced witness in front of legal proceedings. There are some essential points the veterinarian should always keep it in mind when it comes to vetrolegal problems, or even when they are dealing with vetrolegal cases. The first and foremost thing is understanding the legal framework. As we have already dealt with different laws, not only for wildlife, the other relevant laws should also be involved wherever it is appropriate. So we should familiarize ourselves with primarily Indian Wildlife Protection Act 1972, Indian Penal Code, the Cruelty to Prevention of Animals Act 1960, and Forest Conservation Act 1980. So each law has got a specific provisions and penalties related to wildlife crime. The protected species knowledge, again, as we already dealt in Wildlife Protection Act, different species are scheduled from Schedule 1 to 6. So it attracts different varieties of penalties and the punishments. So we have to ensure that which kind of endangered or protected animal we are dealing with, and the knowledge of these schedules are also important. As usual, documentation and procedures ensure that all the procedures and documentation comply with the legal standards to make them admissible in front of the court. The second point is evidence collection and chain of custody. As we have seen this already, sample collection protocols has to be standardized and followed as per the stipulated norms, whether it is blood or tissue or fractured bone or any other materials from birds like feathers or scutes or scales from reptiles. So all those things should be established in a proper way so that the contamination can be avoided. Maintaining chain of custody, keep the meticulous record of chain of custody detailing every transfer of these evidences, and it has to be maintained in its integrity. And labeling and secured storage of the samples are also very crucial part to prevent tampering of any of these samples under the vetrolegal case. And minimal handling. The evidence is only what is necessary, and document any unavoidable contact to prevent accusation of contamination. So this handling of these samples or even evidences should be very minimal so that there won't be any unwanted legal entity coming into this picture. The third one is documentation and record keeping. As we have already seen many times that the necropsy finding or photographic evidences or detailed injury description should be documented, and all these records should be properly kept and then filed so that it should be very professional and then should be presented in front of the court of law. And photographic evidences and case records, as we mentioned, it should be a high resolution picture, and the photograph should be time stamped so that the data or the date or even the time of the investigation or even the Vetrolegal case should be very evident, so that nobody will have assumption or even biased approach towards this evidences. And case records, again, maintain a well organized case records and logs as they may be required in front of the court, and for any legal references the records are accessible and safeguarded against alteration. Forensic necropsy and examination, again to ensure the cause of death, whether it is human made or even through diseases or any natural causes. And the injury pattern also should be recognized, as we already mentioned, whether it is a gunshot wound or even a snare or a trap injury or poisoning or snare. So all those things should be recognized properly. And sample collection for toxicology, as we already mentioned, this toxicological samples should be collected appropriately if you are suspecting any poisonous foul play. So blood, liver or even stomach contents are essential to ensure the toxic load should be determined. And the species identification and DNA analysis, as we already saw, that the DNA sampling is important when you are trying to confirm the particular species. It has to be always documented or even always be guaranteed through DNA sampling and analysis, so that there won't be any dilemmas in the species identification. And the genetic testing always confirms the species identity, which can be crucial when dealing with confiscated or even any part of the body was illegally traded, like fur, bone or even skin, should be subjected to genetic analysis, so that the DNA sampling will always support and ensure that the species identification is very scientific. And toxicology and poison analysis, as we know that suspicious of poisoning cases should always be reported with more of scientific evidences or laboratory interpretation for both qualitative and quantitative analysis. And even the recent death of 10 wild elephants in the state of MP in Bandhavgarh because of kodo millet poisoning is just because of this alpha cyclopiazonic acid, CPA content in the kodo millet is another example of the importance of Vetrolegal cases with respect to toxicological or poisonous analysis. So sample preservation and transporting the sample in a very well maintained or even with cold chain or whatever the preservatives should be added without changing the toxicological content of the sample. So one should always have the sample transportation or sample collection procedures and shipping in addition to collaboration with forensic laboratories within the country, so that the toxicological analysis and the laboratory name or even the credentials of the laboratory is very critical and then justifiable in front of the court. And injury and behavioral analysis of the human inflicted trauma, just by seeing the snare injuries or cuts or gunshot wounds or even chemical burns should be very much identified by a wildlife veterinary expert. And the animal behavior assessment is also important, whether it is a live animal or even an injured dead animal, just because of the abuse or even stress, is all be identified through animal behavior assessment. And reporting the writing and legal languages. So this is again a clear and concise report of using precise and clear language in report to make them understandable to non-veterinary professionals such as lawyers and judges. And legal terminologies also we should be familiar with, so that we should use an appropriate language to inform or to present the findings in front of the court, to avoid any assumptions or even opinions unless it is backed with scientific evidence. And complete documentation is also ensured and addressed all relevant aspects, like including injury descriptions or cause of death and any supportive evidences. The role as an expert witness presenting the evidence in the court should also be very professional, and the findings should be presented objectively, and the professionalism has to be maintained so that there won't be any bias, or even the presenting of factual information is always be neutral. And cross-examination preparation, one should always be prepared for the cross-examination by a defense lawyer, so that your findings should be very clear, and then there won't be any speculations or answers. Only what is within our expertise should be conveyed during the cross-examination. And ethical and confidentiality standards, we have to maintain the objectivity and then ensure the legal or even the sensitive case evidences or even the components of these cases should be kept under confidentiality, and we should not disclose those things in medias or in front of the public. And the sensitive case details should be kept in confidential places, and the professional conduct in high ethical standards, and that the findings and the actions are defensible in front of the court. Biosecurity and disease prevention, as we already mentioned, the use of personal protective equipments to ensure the biosecurity protocols are maintained, and sample handling with respect to the zoonotic diseases, and disposable of biological waste is also be very appropriate with a standard operating procedures. And interagency collaboration plays always a major role, and as we mentioned, working with the law enforcement department and training and knowledge sharing with forest department and police and other enforcement agencies. And lab collaboration, as we already mentioned, we have to get in touch with the appropriate lab with a proper credentials, so that it will be justifiable in front of the court. Awareness of wildlife trade and trafficking trends, we should stay updated with our illegal wildlife trade which is prevailing in the trend, as veterinarians often encounter confiscated wildlife products or live trafficked animals, and identification of animal parts, not only the animal species and also the animal parts we should be familiar with, like skin, horns and bones, to aid in investigation related to trafficking and poaching. And the last point is the public awareness and education. So community outreach and support conservation effort is also important to understand and make the stakeholders aware about the wildlife laws, conservation efforts, and importance of reporting wildlife crimes. To conclude this, veterinarians in the vetrolegal wildlife cases are essential to bringing and bridging veterinary science and law enforcement. By adhering to rigorous evidence collection, reporting, and forensic standards, veterinarians help strengthening wildlife protection laws, combat illegal wildlife activities, and contribute to conservation efforts of the country.